Welcome to The Cool Down, a Bailiwick Express podcast where we meet the people making the sports headlines. Hello, I'm Nick Mann, and in this first episode of our rugby special, I talk to Guernsey Raiders Director of Rugby Jordan Reynolds as his side look to change the mood and climb clear of the relegation battle. Here we are. Thanks for coming in. Obviously, just wouldn't mind taking you back right to the start of the season. You first getting the team together and putting your plans in place. So what were you targeting? What were your hopes?
Yeah, so off a pretty successful season, although we probably didn't hit a lot of the marks we did the year before, we still came ninth in the league, our highest ever position, which was great. We won some really big games, and that was the first year where we started knocking off a lot of those top three sides, on probably some one-offs, but really successful season. So when we came into pre-season, we understood our squad was probably going to get a little bit less strength in it. We were losing some key players, and we didn't have the ability to, replace those guys coming into the season. But we kind of centralised ourselves around that we were going to get fitter, stronger, and faster, and we did that. Our aims at the start of the season, we've always wanted to be in that top six. So if you look at coming ninth last season, we're only talking a few spots into that top six, but that top six is a really big statement in National 2. All those clubs that are up at that level are well established in National 1 and National 2, so that would have kind of been some great achievement for us. Has it gone to plan? Probably not. We started really well in September and probably up to mid-October. We won I think 3 of the games that were in that league, and we're on around 18 points, and we're sitting quite pretty. I think we're sitting around 7th at the moment, so we're one off our kind of estimated mark to get up there. And once I think it was Storm Kieran hit, all that rain came after, and we actually haven't had a training facility for over 9 weeks, 10 weeks coming up from last week. So that's obviously hampered a lot of what we could do preparation-wise, and now we're probably stuck in what we're calling a mini relegation battle at the moment. Although we're not in the relegation zone just yet, we're only a couple of points off that. So we've put that kind of analogy into how we're preparing at the moment, so we can ensure that we're improving.
And what do you put that sort of drop-off in results, certainly, not necessarily in performance, but definitely results, down to?
Yeah, well, as I said before, it's probably 2 frames. One is our inability to replace a lot of the quality that we had last season. Now, we've got guys that are coming through, and they're going to be quality in maybe 2-3 years' time, but at the moment, it's just getting that balance. We lost some really, really big players, and I guess on the other side of it is, not being able to train properly is a big factor. So, unlike a lot of different sports, where repetition is key, for us, repetition is key, but we have to keep on altering what we're doing. So there's many different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, but there is many different ways for rugby teams to set up. So defensively and attack-wise, so when we do analysis that week, we go out and actually go on the pitch knowing what the opposition are going to do, and we practice that to try and beat them. Well, not having a facility to train on has been the big effect of that. So we can put the knowledge in. So on a Tuesday, the knowledge will go into the players. But unless we can put that into practice, they're not learning it. And it's not becoming that muscle memory in games. And I think that's been a big factor to the slide. Because if you look where we were probably this time in the last 2 seasons in National 2, we're sitting around that 7th, 8th mark. And at the moment, we're sitting towards the bottom.
And a typical week, for people that don't know about your setup, I think I've seen you down at Foots Lane doing these presentations to the team. How does that typical week pan out? And what have you done to replace being able to be out on the pitch?
Yeah, well, we're still working through the second one because that's still a big problem. But so a typical week for us as a team. So we play on Saturday. They'll have recovery on the Sunday. And then around Monday, well, I start on Sunday, but on Monday, we'll start doing a lot of review work. So I'll send clips out to players on Sunday and Monday, just looking at key moments in the game, what we could have done better. And then by Tuesday, we'll do a full analysis on the game that we just played. We'll also do a preview on the team that we're coming up. So any analysis that we do on the previous game has to apply to the one that you're playing. So there's things that you mightn't have got right, but if it doesn't apply to the team you're playing, there's no point talking about it. It all has to transition into the next. And like I said, there's 14 teams in our league, and guaranteed there's 14 different ways they play. So there'll be strengths in certain areas, and we've got to make sure we get that right. So if we look through that one, so after the review, we're out, we go straight into practice. And then we're training Tuesday and Thursday evenings, but then the boys also have to get in their gym sessions. And they have programs for that where it comes on their phone. They'll have their updated things, and they've got to get 3 or 4 of those in a week as well.
Because that's been a new innovation for this season as well, isn't it? Like the strength and conditioning program. And
yeah. So it's kind of like where we wanted to steer the team was to if we couldn't have the strength and depth that other squads have. So most squads in our league and probably below are around 40. We're around maybe 25, 26. So we have to get more endurance out of our players, which is always going to be difficult. We wanted to bring in a full-time S&C, but everything costs money. So we went into a gym app with Warburton, which is great. It's pretty useful. All the information goes onto the players' app, and then they just highlight what they do, and then I get the reports back constantly coming through. So we can also work their loads. So like coming up to Christmas, we understand there is a bit of fatigue in the players, and we've got a 3-week gap, so we can control their workloads during that time. So we drop it down to maybe one gym session a week plus a conditioning session. So it's a good way to alter, but also keep on responding with the players.
And are you seeing the results of that as well?
Yeah, it's probably not coming off the back of results in games, but you can see the results and the small wins that we're getting. So I think if we probably had this in place maybe last season, we do hit into that top 6. And it's only small, things around your S&C and health and stuff. It's only really, small margins, but those small margins are pretty big. But we're starting to see a lot of our core group of players are getting a lot stronger and fitter.
And if you look back at the first half of this season, any particular standout highlights positives that you're taking from it?
Yeah, look, we almost beat Esher at home. Esher is sitting top of the moment, National 1 club, and it all stemmed down to the very last scrum of the game. And we didn't get it, but we learned a lot from that one. Worthing is a team that we only beaten once, and we really played well at home, beating them 41-16 or something like that. Those little couple of performances were great, but I think one that really stands out was only just a few weeks ago, to be fair. We had to go up to North Walsham up in Norwich. So that's like we leave Friday 3 and we're back Sunday lunchtime. So it's a big trip. And we only had something like 5 of our players from the previous week because everyone was injured when we went up there. So we went up with a pretty fresh team and we managed to get the bonus point, which is a huge mission for us. Considering the league position that we're in. So it made the trip back on the bus a lot more enjoyable. I think we're on there for 5 hours, so made that a lot more enjoyable. But I think it's those little margins where, where our back's against the wall, we come out and perform. And, although we didn't get the result on the weekend, we've identified that we want to go back to play our way. So we have a certain way we play that is very unique in the probably league system or English rugby. We play very Southern Hemisphere. We want to play with ball in hand and express ourselves. And we've kind of got caught into a trap around Dorking time where I guess we felt pressured into forcing ourselves to kick a lot more. And we did that, and then because some failures came with that. Probably lately when we went up to Norwich and then last week we've gone back into how we want to play and how we want to be expressing ourselves as a group, and I think we found that we'll get that form back in January.
What's the message you've been giving to the players on the back of that game and now looking into January? Yeah,
so probably even going back further. So when things aren't going well, it's really easy to start picking out the work-ons and overloading those because look, no one's aiming to make mistakes, no one's aiming to lose, and all our guys have desire to win, but you can have all the passion in the world, but you still will lose games if teams are just better than you. And that's what we face week in and week out. That when we got into that little groove, or we'll call it a little rut, the more we tried to do things, the less they were coming off. So the philosophy that we took in for those, probably that last month, was less was more. So for us, it was about just doing the really simple things well, and then when we get those little wins, just creating those. I know one of the concepts that for players and for all sports people is when failures come, the first thing you start thinking of is the results, the end results. So you're like, oh, we have to get this win. But in fact, if you're doing that, then you're not thinking about the small little process that have to go first. And it's the simple things of like, I'm a firm believer that any form can change with one big play because it excites you. And we spoke about that on the weekend, that let's celebrate the small wins. If it's a good tackle, let's celebrate it. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to change moods. So the mood in the group, for the last couple of months, has been down, it's been damper, and how do you excite them again? Well, it's reaffirming that it's not as bad as we always think. There's little wins in there that we can get excited about, and those wins will build to bigger results.
And looking, into January and into the new year, where would you hope to get this team to? Yeah, so
look, we're having a break now, and I wish we weren't having a break. Personally, I wish we weren't having a break because I felt there was such good rugby played on the weekend that we can build on that. But we all need a break. I think we all need a break from each other. We're in each other's pockets a lot. So from where we need to be coming into January, we got some really big games. We got TJ's at home, who we failed to beat away, but we got close. We got Isha away, who are riding top. Wimbledon at home after that, must win. Then I believe it's possibly Worthing away. So there's a good core of games in there that we have to compete for. Where we need to be is we've got 24 points now. We probably need another 30 in place by the end of the season to get out of relegation. So now we won't know where that is until probably the last 5 games, but we've got to imagine that every other team's going to be winning games as well. Once that desperation comes in, it gets pretty tough. So for us over this break, it's to almost have a bit of a reset. We've got to get fitter again because obviously our conditioning has dropped since we haven't had training facilities to play on. Well, by the time we get into January, we've got to be looking at each block. So the first block, we've got 3 games. We've got to be looking at something like 8 points from those 3 games minimum, and that'll be a really tough ask for the group. But I think there's a lot of capability in our guys to do that. If we can get something like 8 or 7 points in that first block, it's going to go a huge distance for us getting out of relegation this year. And I think if we can do that for at the end of this season, get out of relegation, I think we can be in good stead for the next year after that.
And I was going to ask you a bit, we've had Dan Barnes come in, obviously from Jersey Reds, and how was that played out?
Yeah, it worked well. Dan, I think on both sides we learnt a lot, working with Dan. Dan had an opportunity. He was always looking for another opportunity in France or in England. So we haven't used him for the last couple of weeks because he's been in and around trying to sort those things out. But we'll probably revisit that again. But at the same time, when Dan came in, we had a huge amount of injuries in our backline. There was a couple of games there where we were playing forwards in our backline. So when Dan came in, it was a perfect fit for us at the time, and it helped him and it helped us.
And talking about another Barnes this time, so Malcolm Barnes been a big part of the club for so many years as well, not just as a player, as a coach with you as well. How much is he going to be missed, and what did he offer the side over those years? Oh,
I'm thank God we got rid of him finally. Look, Malcolm's been in for a while, and everyone knows that I was pretty close with Malcolm, and still am. We lived together for I think 10 years, and our rugby minds were pretty similar. But I think the thing with Malcolm and myself, it was, we weren't really yes men to each other. If he had an idea and I would think about it, or vice versa. And especially in my role as director of rugby and the head coaching role, it was good to have someone like that was willing to challenge me on ideas and kind of say, well, I don't think that's right. And then we would hash it out. And look, you could ask our partners or you could ask our friends, we literally speak rugby 24/7, and he's in New Zealand at the moment. And he was texting me Saturday morning asking how the warm up was with the boys, and is there any changes and what it is. So he's still heavily connected in certain ways. But look, he was a great player for the club, and I think the difference between Malcolm, and it's what I try to tell a lot of inspiring young players, is the difference between Malcolm and certain other players that set him aside is he didn't have all the talent. He just worked really hard. There was moments where on like a Saturday morning or Sunday he would do like 2 hours of stretching. Like for me, I'm probably getting over a hangover or sitting on the couch, but that was his prep. And then Monday he was in the gym, and then his whole week was almost meticulous in the way he prepped. And that doesn't matter if he was playing for the Chiefs in New Zealand or he's playing for Vikings. He doesn't change his prep for anything. And I think that professionalism is admirable in one, but I think that's what made him such a great player. He refused to drop his standards, so he was a good man to have around the club.
And is there any moves to bring anyone in to help support you, or how's that working out?
No. so at the moment, probably one of the other factors that we've struggled this season as well is we lost our defensive coach in August. He snapped his Achilles, Luke Jones. Well, he's only just come back. So he's just come back and he had his first training last week. And it's probably no coincidence that off the back of his first training that weekend, we had a way better defensive performance this week. So I think having him come back in is going to make a huge difference for us. And he's back and he's eager and he's had a good break. So that would be ideal. We'll probably look to maybe bring someone in the summer. Ideally, we should be having somewhere between 4 or 5 coaches, but with the Raiders, we've only ever had maybe 2 or 3. So if we'll have 2 for the rest of the season now, and hopefully we can bring another one in the summer.
And looking more long term as well, where would you like to see Raiders in 2, 3, 4 years' time?
It's a tough question, really, because I probably have a far better understanding of the league systems, the money that's required. Whatever I say could be taken in no uncertain terms, the wrong way. But look, for me, I don't think it matters. I think we should be looking to sustain ourselves at National 2 because it gives for example, we played in National 3 and basically there was 3 teams that vied for promotion. The rest of the time you're beating teams by 30, 40 points. And I just don't think that benefits anyone. Or it definitely doesn't benefit you as individually or as a team to try and develop and grow. When we play at this level, so we went away to Seven Oaks on the weekend. We beat them at home 31-21 or something like that. We went away and lost to them. Wimbledon, who's fighting in the bottom 2 at the moment, almost beat Barnes, who sits second on the weekend. So week in and week out, it's just horrible rugby. You know what I mean? It's just, and honestly, it pushes you to your limits every week. And I think that's the level that we need to be at. I don't think there's any point in trying to go down. Now, whether or not that's sustainable for us, my other side of this is where I'd like to see us in 3 to 4 years has been a club that's sustainable with an effective program. So at the moment we have things in place, and it's probably not perfect at the moment, and we always review those. But a system in place where we're winning it from board level down to team, and I mean all our groups. So having more influence in the academy, which we're working on at the moment. Having a coach down there as well that could be coach. Because I used to do a lot of this, but I just don't have the time anymore. And I think that's a gap now that we're missing. Having a system in place, though, where, our Vikings, well, anywhere coming from like Colts to Vikings to Raiders is sustainable, but we're constantly building, around 60, 70 players that are developing into that. And at the moment, I think we've got things in place. But in 3 to 4 years, I'd hope that that's connected a lot better. Because if we can do that, then I don't think there's any problem with staying in National 2 and having a good local base around us.
Because, I mean, from a fan's perspective, watching this level of rugby is great.
Yeah.
And actually, the whether Raiders win or whether they lose, there's always good rugby on offer. And we see that from the crowds that keep coming down to Foots Lane as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can't thank the support that we get. But I think that is off the back of, the level of rugby. When we lost to Berries 2 weeks ago, we lost on that Friday night game. We were disappointed, and more so we're disappointed how we performed in front of our home fans. And I had a meeting with someone on the Monday that was there, and they said, "Oh, we'll come down and support all the time." But even they said, "But Berries were just that much better." And it's like, for us, it's like, but that's the exact environment that we want to be in. We don't want to, like I said, we don't want to be a National 3 where, you can beat a team by 60 points. We've done that, and it's not fun. It's not fun for anyone. We want to be in an environment where we're constantly challenged. We want to be in an environment where, look, we're not going to lose all the time, and we haven't over the last 2 years. But in National League, in the National 2 leagues, I think did we win? I think the first year we were in there, we won like 12 games or something like that. That's a huge achievement for such a small club. Like I said, like other clubs have, 40 just for their first team. They have 40 players. That's incredible. We have 25, and then we have the rest of the Vikings guys that are coming through at the same time. It just shows the depth of where we are, and I don't believe we're out of our depth club wise or support wise. I've been to games on the mainland when they've got 60, 70 people watching and a guy walking his dog over the other side. We come to our games and it's the most horriblest weather you get, and we still get 6, 7, 8, 900 to the game. I think we're such a unique place where it's great that you get support whether you win or lose. But I think the rugby lot aren't fickle either. They understand well, okay, we're at this level. Not every game's not going to go our way, but when we do get those big wins, we can almost sit on that for a while and enjoy it.
And do you have one eye on what's happening in Jersey as well, with the Siam in mind?
Not really. I mean, look, to be honest, we've got our own issues here at the moment that we try to work through in time. We don't ever look at the Siam until about a week beforehand. And that's nothing against them. It's just there's no point. Look, they're in a league now where they're just winning week in and week out because they're too low for where they are, and that for them is not good development. They'll find their level probably next season or the season after. Who knows? It might be in National 2 with us, but the difference will be off the back of at the moment they're just winning games, and that must be very difficult for them to get excited about week in and week out because. From our point, we've gone through that. Last time we were in National 3, I think we only lost one game. And although that's fantastic, and you can kind of turn around and say we're on this unbeaten record, it's actually not a record if you're not competing at the highest level, for yourself. So I know Miles, pretty well. He'll be really gunning to try and get up the leagues as quick as possible where they can be challenged. But to be fair, they've got a fair few Jersey Reds guys that stayed behind and now playing for them. So no doubt they'll be fairly strong over the next couple of years.
And any final message?
Look, just with the support and that, stick with us. We feel we're making a bit of a turn at the moment, and if we look at the last 2 previous seasons, we come out firing really early in the season, then dropped off in the later season because of fatigue. And I think this season we've probably done a role reverse of that. I can see us making a change in January and February and starting to pick up some more wins. And we think probably ideally we need maybe 5 or 6 wins to finish off the season out of 13 games. And although that's going to be tough, come on the journey with us and we'll see if we can get there.
That's brilliant. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate.
That was the cool down. Thanks again for listening. Please like and subscribe for more. You can find all our sports news on gsy.bailiwickexpress.com and on all our social channels. Sign up to our daily email to keep up to date on all the work the Express team does.